people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
News.
Nothing. I wanted to see the winner, and obviously here you are, the winner, the champion. Congratulations! It was a phenomenal night. Your people really showed up, and I'm curious. You know, everyone talks about Kate Taylor, but we're champions. We're the champions of the 135 division. We're supposed to become undisputed. And I'm curious if you don't get the Kate Taylor fight, because let's be realistic. There's so many girls at this weight division. Everyone's calling out Kate Taylor. If you don't get that fight, who do you want?
Caroline Dubois, if I don't get the Katie Taylor fight, I want to fight you.
100%.
I 100%.
Woo!
I don't want to fight.
That's what we're here for.
I want to fight champions.
You
You are holding 2 of the belts.
100%.
And obviously our goals are to be undisputed.
Undisputed.
So if I don't get Katie Taylor, I know if you don't get Katie Taylor, then
I don't want Katie Taylor.
Let's do it.
I don't want Katie
Let's do
Taylor.
it. Let's do it. I'm being serious. I would love the
I
opportunity.
appreciate that.
Love the opportunity.
Appreciate it.
Caroline Dubois made sure to be in attendance for this weekend's rematch between Stephanie and Holly on the premise that there was a title on the line. Her open call-out post-fight is being received with mixed reviews. JR, a friend of the channel, said she's a fucking coward. Avoided Beatrice Ferreira, and now Elif Nur-Turhan. Alicia Baumgartner, for the love of God, please beat the fuck out of her and end her hype. Tired of seeing Clarissa 2.0 on my timeline. Is the criticism valid? I think that JR has a talent for looking past what is obvious, because it's obvious for one champion at a weight to call out another. But with Caroline, if you've been paying attention, she does have a history of targeting the low-hanging fruit. When Rhiannon Dixon was WBO champion, Rhiannon, who had no amateur background, she was the low-hanging fruit. Outwardly, it seemed like Caroline Dubois put a lot more priority on fighting her than fighting Beatrice Ferreira. Unbeaten at the time, a champion and an Olympian like herself. She targeted the low-hanging fruit. And then when Terry Harper beat Rhiannon, same thing. Terry Harper, that Caroline Dubois had nothing good to say about, she made her the priority instead of Beatrice, that if Terry's as bad as you say and she hasn't accomplished anything, then go fight Beatrice. If you think she's better. She didn't. So to a lot of people, it's in keeping with a pattern from Caroline that she regularly goes after the low-hanging fruit. Whoever the weakest link is, that's who she's gonna jump up and chase. Especially when Stephanie Han, to a lot of people, lost on Saturday and the decision seems like a robbery. Here comes Caroline. What happened to her open call-out of the other champion at this weight, Turkey's own Elif Nur-Turhan, the woman who beat Beatrice Ferreira, sent her packing back to the amateurs.
Hi everyone. I usually say my piece in the ring, but let's make an exception now. Caroline Dubois, you said you'd knock me down. You said you wanted me. So here I am. Do you really want to fight me? Then I invite to Istanbul with a big offer, or turn your small offer into a serious one. Let the talking stop, and now it's time for action. Let's be realistic. Thank you.
Elif Nur-Turhan, this division's IBF champion, made a name for herself by beating a string of unbeaten fighters. Unbeaten Shauna Brown in her neck of the woods, unbeaten Rima Ayadi in her neck of the woods, both as the away fighter. More famously knocking out then unbeaten IBF champion Beatrice Ferreira, an amateur standout and an Olympian, just like Caroline. Elif Nur-Turhan is widely perceived as being a more dangerous opponent and a more dangerous puncher than Stephanie Han by a lot, and it's proven. What she lacks in fundamentals, she makes up for in ferocity and stopping power. What happened to her and Caroline fighting? Caroline, who said, piss off with that bullshit, you called me out, so let's fight. Coward, punk, where's your bravery gone now? I want Elif Nur-Turhan next. I'm gonna knock her out. That was a little over a month ago Caroline had that to say. What happened to all that energy that she has now shifted her focus over to Stephanie? I'm gonna be fair, because I feel the same way that JR feels. that Carolyn does have a penchant for targeting the low-hanging fruit. In this instance, however, proximity might have had something to do with it. You'll notice that Elif Nur-Turhan made some mention of some offer, small.
Did they lowball Elif Nur-Turhan?
Without an exact figure, we don't know. But the people at MVP might have decided it's more worth their while to match their own fighters, their own two champions at this weight, than spend extra to bring over somebody else's.
Remember, Elif Nur-Turhan is with Matchroom.
For paying extra for a Matchroom fighter, you may as well dedicate that money to your own two fighters, your own two champions. For Carolyn, she might figure it's just easier to fight Stephanie because Stephanie's right there at MVP.
The fight might be easier to make.
And that doesn't mean she's not still targeting the low-hanging fruit. Two things can be true at the same time.
Nobody thinks Stephanie's as dangerous as Elif Nur-Turhan.
Carolyn included, but proximity might have also had something to do with it, so now she's going after Stephanie, leaving Elif Nur-Turhan out of the unification picture, albeit momentarily, because whoever wins a fight between Carolyn and Stephanie has to then go after her.
For undisputed.
So Matchroom can find somebody for Elif Nur-Turhan to fight, somebody to stay busy with, in defense of her IBF title, while Stephanie and Carolyn settle up with each other. The question is, how long will it take MVP to put this fight together? It's got to be presumably in the fall or winter months. Stephanie just fought. She's got to recuperate.
Matchroom has to get Elif Nur-Turhan to stay busy fighting between now and the fall.
And in the fall, Stephanie and Carolyn can settle up with each other to set up Undisputed for the coming calendar year. Ideally, that's how it would break down.
Is Carolyn being a coward, though?
Look, that's one way to look at it. I understand where JR is coming from, but at the same time, the more of these belts at her own weight that she collects, the less avenues of opportunity she leaves for Alicia Baumgartner when she moves up, because at some point, she's gonna have to.
And instead of leaving the door open for her to fight Stephanie Han, she'll take care of Stephanie herself.
It's another way to look at it.
Well, of course, the WBC order is Mikaelian against Benavides. That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
If he takes another fight, then he's relinquishing his obligations with the WBC.
As I stated in a previous video, this would not be the first time that the World Boxing Council ordered one of their champions to unify with another, but it would be the first time they threatened to strip their champion for non-compliance. When Gary was ordered to fight Leo Santa Cruz in a unification match at featherweight by the World Boxing Council, they didn't actually fight. Nothing happened.
Nobody got stripped.
And more specific to the World Boxing Council, when an order came down for Mikey Garcia, then champion, to fight Jorge Linares in a unification match. Same deal.
The fight didn't happen.
Mikey had the WBC World title, Jorge had the WBC Diamond, and the full WBA title.
The fight didn't happen.
And when it didn't happen, neither fighter was stripped of their respective WBC titles, so that's what sets this order apart. Now, I can count on one hand how many times the World Boxing Council has ordered one champion to unify with another, and I wouldn't even need all 5 fingers.
That rarely ever happens.
But I would only need one finger, just one, to count how many times they've threatened one of their own champions the way they are now threatening Noel Mikhailian. That's what gives it away, that this is not about moving the ranks along or keeping the division moving. This is about getting David another belt.
This is about allowing him to circumvent the Jai Opataya fight by fighting another champion at the weight, because Jai Opataya is still Ring Magazine and lineal champion.
David doesn't want to fight him, obviously. The WBC knows that, so they're helping him out.
By fucking over Noel?
Well, they don't give a fuck about Noel. Noel doesn't bring them hefty sanctioning fees or TV money, so what does it cost them to fuck him over? They're saying they gave him a grace period to negotiate a voluntary title defense.
Well, isn't that what he was doing?
Yes, but they don't like who he was doing it with. They don't like that he was going to let Jai Opataya back into the world title picture. They want to get David Benavidez another belt, obviously, but they don't want Jai Opataya to get one. He was just stripped of the IBF for his affiliation to Zuffa Boxing.
He's being castigated. He's being punished.
Team Benavidez want to freeze him out, and the World Boxing Council wants to help them.
Okay.
Yeah, the WBC ruling, which is public at the convention, you were there. It was that the winner of Badu Jack against Mikaelian would be the WBC cruiserweight champion, would be allowed one voluntary defense and then had to do the 2 mandatory defenses.
Well, he was about to fight a voluntary until you just interrupted him.
This division has been backed up for a long time. So Mikaelian won. He was notified that he was allowed to do a voluntary defense, and it has been 6 months since then. The WBC has been in constant communication with Mikaelian's management and promoter. There have been some issues between them. There were some issues. Alberto Leon had some Zooms at the end. They were not able to come to terms. So when the WBC received a petition from our light heavyweight champion, who is David Benavides, who won the WBA and the WBO cruiserweight championship, to fight against Mikaelian, the WBC ruled in favor and ordered Mikaelian to fight against Benavides. That is the WBC position. That is the fight that has to take place next, unless there are agreements by both reaching any sort of agreement. But for the WBC, it is Mikaelian against Benavides next.
What Mauricio Suleiman deliberately leaves out of his explanation is the timing of the order. It seems that the order came down right on time to block the Opetaia fight. We've known for weeks, we've known for a while now, that Jai Opetaia was negotiating with Noel, and Noel was on board. He wanted to do it.
Of course he did. It was for a turkey bag.
I can't imagine how fucking furious he must be. That he was on the eve of making a big turkey bag on a Ring magazine show, and now he's forced to be the B-side to a David Benavides for a lot less money.
A lot less.
Because what do you think? That the PBC are about to pay that guy the way that Turkey was going to pay that guy? To voluntarily defend his title against Jai. They were going to pay him well.
The PBC are going to pay him like he's an opponent, not a champion, not a belt holder. They're going to pay him like he's the B-side to David Benavides. So I imagine he's got to be upset. Now, there are rumors and rumblings that Noel might choose to still go ahead with the Opetaia fight anyway, but he can't as a champion.
So then what would be the point? The whole point of making the fight with him and Jai is getting Jai another belt. If he doesn't have one to give...
That's the fucking point.
The plan now seems to be to get David Benavides to undisputed without involving Jai Opetaia. One problem is, Jai is still Ring Magazine and lineal champion. You can't be undisputed if you don't go through him. What you can do is collect all the alphabet titles.
But those by themselves don't make you undisputed. Not if there's a Ring Magazine and lineal champion at the weight at the same time as you.
In what seems like a brazen abuse of power from the World Boxing Council that's intended to be an impartial mediator between fighters and their teams to make fights happen, they're very much partial to David Benavides if they're gonna fuck over their own champion like this.
Well, don't forget that he is their champion too, just at a different weight.
Sanctioning bodies ideally service as impartial mediators to give boxing a hierarchy, a pecking order,
Structure.
though it only really works so long as they stay impartial. The World Boxing Council are anything but impartial.
They have their favorites, and it's very obvious, but nobody's been able to do anything about it because their own bylaws are written by them. They empower themselves to do whatever they want.
So any fighter foolish enough to go the WBC route is subject to whatever they decide, whatever they mandate, whenever they feel like it.
Bear in mind, they're charging you to do this. 3% out of your fight purse.
For the promise of a title shot that you might never get, because they might go ahead and give it to some more popular fighter, like what they did at 147 with Manny Pacquiao and Ryan Garcia.
You've got all these fighters in the top 10, in the top 15, fighting and winning and paying their sanctioning fees just for a retired Manny Pacquiao to get a title shot before them.
Then an unranked Ryan Garcia, who literally wasn't even ranked by the World Boxing Council at that time, coming off the loss to Rolly.
He got a title shot before them. So for all those guys in the WBC's top 10, top 15, you've got to be asking yourselves, what are we paying these people for? Why are we even going this route?
The WBC are not the only ones. There is their sister organization, the WBA.
They're just as bad.
I believe that they just up and decided to label Seiya Tsutsumi, their WBA bantamweight champion, a champion in recess, so that they could make Vargas versus Rodriguez for the full title.
They essentially fucked over Seiya Tsutsumi so they could ingratiate themselves with the sanctioning fees from the Vargas versus Rodriguez fight.
Former WBO president Paco Varcarcel, who's never had any hair on his tongue and never held back criticizing his fellow sanctioning body presidents, said, "When will the Association of Boxing Commissions grow a spine and force the WBA to kill the stinking regular and interim titles? Enforce the Muhammad Ali Boxing Reform Act already."
I think what he means is the Revival Act, and the problem is the act hasn't been passed yet. Everybody knows that it's going to, because Zuffa and Dana White and Nick Khan, they've got friends in high places, so it's only a matter of time, but we're not there yet.
And that's why the WBA can still keep mass-producing different versions of the same title at the same weight under the guise of the regular title, the interim title, the super title.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
Those in opposition of the Revival Act do so on the premise that they're trying to prevent a monopoly from forming,
Zuffa's monopoly.
when in all actuality, all they're really doing is preserving the existing monopoly, the existing racket between the WBA and the WBC, who most benefit from boxing's bent and crooked framework.
Been saying it.
You know, the Association of Boxing Commissions supposedly held the WBA's feet to the fire some years ago when they ordered them to reduce the number of titles they have in rotation at all these different weights. And for a little while it was working, then they just up and stopped.
They were doing it for a little while, phasing out all of those secondary titles, then of their own volition, they just up and stopped and started mass-producing them again.
And the Association of Boxing Commissions, otherwise known as the ABC Commission, they didn't do shit about it. So, in a framework where there's nobody to really police these sanctioning bodies,
We're supposed to get mad at legislation that can.
boxing as a sport will not police itself. It will empower itself to do whatever it feels like whenever it wants, and that is proven. That's what we're seeing.
What we've been seeing.
We're supposed to get mad at Dana White and Nick Khan for attempting to get legislation passed that would police them, that would keep them in line. They're supposed to be the bad guys when the WBC fucks over its own champion in Noel Mikhailian.
When the WBA fucks over its own champion in Seiya Tsutsumi.
Are these bleeding hearts really sure that they're on the right side of history, or have they been brainwashed? To understand why there is a need for the Ali Revival Act, or the presence of an alternative framework like Zuffa, look no further than the WBC's recent mandate or the WBA's. That's the problem. That's the why.
And up until recently, the fighters didn't have a choice but to deal with this bullshit.
Now they do, and that's what these people are arguing against. The freedom of choice. To not deal with Mauricio and his bullshit. To not deal with Gilberto.
I'm not even saying that Zuffa's framework is perfect.
But it can't be any worse than the nonsense we've been seeing year after year. So I say, give him a chance. Make room.
Zuffa doesn't need to be perfect because the WBC isn't perfect. The WBA isn't perfect.
You'd have to be blind, deaf, and dumb to not see how much they're damaging the sport and its reputation.